Madison Square Garden has seen just about everything in basketball. Michael Jordan's 55, Reggie Miller silencing an entire city in 9 seconds, LeBron's takeover nights. But on this particular Sunday, in the middle of all that history, something new happened. Caitlin Clark walked into the Mecca, put on a headset for NBC, picked up a ball against Jamal Crawford, and showed the entire country that she fits on that stage as naturally as anyone. NBC had been hyping it up all night on Basketball Night in America. You had MJ's insights to excellence, Lakers versus Knicks on deck, LeBron back onto the Garden lights, and then, almost casually, they dropped in, speaking of greatness, Caitlin Clark joins our Basketball Night in America team. No soft landing, no training wheels. First time at MSG for a Knicks game, first time on that set, and they immediately threw her into the fire. Before she even hit the desk, they handed her Jamal Crawford. They didn't call it horse or pig like most of us grew up with. On NBC, the game is NBC. Same idea. Your opponent has to match your shots, letter by letter, until someone spells it out and loses. And here's Caitlin, WNBA All-Star, walking onto the floor in front of a live audience, going up against a guy who made his entire NBA career out of embarrassing defenders and raining jumpers on national TV. House rules set, trash talk starting, and Jamal wants her to go first. That alone tells you something. He wanted to see what she had. So Caitlin takes the ball, steps to the line, and for her opening act calls out a left-handed free throw. Not her normal hand, not a warm-up layup. If she bricks it badly, it's freeze-frame fodder all over social media before the next commercial break. Instead, she steps up with millions watching and lets it go. As the game builds, you see exactly why she's the one NBC chose. It doesn't take long before she backs it up into her signature zone, logo range. Those deep threes that made her appointment viewing at Iowa, that turned college arenas into shooting galleries, she just imports them straight into this TV segment like it's nothing. Feet set, smooth follow-through, ball spinning perfectly, and now Jamal Crawford, the king of four-point plays, has to live in her world for a few possessions. Crawford tries to keep pace, talking a little junk, pointing at the rim, trying to match her from spots nobody practices on a regular basis. Most NBA guards don't spend much time launching from the logo in casual shooting games. Caitlin has been doing it for years. There's a comfort in the way she steps into those shots that you just don't see often, and it shows. The back and forth turns into pure TV gold. There's laughter, some misses, a couple of makes that feel like mini highlights in the middle of a broadcast, and a lot of banter. Jamal is needling her, she's firing right back, the crew is losing it when she buries something ridiculous. At one point, you hear someone say there's 0% chance he hits a particular shot, and that's exactly the kind of playful, confident energy that sells not just highlights, but personalities. By the time it ends, they're both smiling, hugging it out, and heading back to the studio. Zora Stevenson jokes with Caitlin in the green room afterward, saying she heard Caitlin lost the first game, and Caitlin shoots back that she won the series. You can hear the competitiveness in that. She's not content with a cute moment. She wants to win, even in a glorified game of horse on live TV. That's how real hoopers think, regardless of cameras or titles. Back at the desk, the veterans are already thinking ahead. Carmelo suggests that what they just watched would be perfect for All-Star Weekend, a televised horse-style event with NBA and WNBA shooters going at it. The idea lands instantly. You can feel everyone, including Caitlin, perk up. They all know fans would eat that up. Then NBC does the formal welcome. Our new special correspondent, Caitlin Clark. First Knicks game for her, first time truly feeling that building in this way, and immediately the conversation turns to what it would be like to have her actually play on that floor. They joke about needing to talk to Adam Silver, to the Liberty, to whoever has to sign off, but everyone knows what they're really hinting at. A WNBA game at Madison Square Garden with Caitlin Clark on the floor would be a massive event. Even a preseason game would draw huge eyes. Caitlin doesn't shy away from the idea at all. She laughs, says they'll play anybody, and that it would be fun. She's already mentally there. Then, they pivot to the atmosphere, and this is where you really see why she translates so well to TV.
Asked to describe what MSG feels like, she doesn't just say it's loud or it's cool. She breaks it down like a player. She explains that as a player, you really start to feel a building during warm-ups when you're out there early on the court. She talks about the different buzz in the air, how the energy is distinct. She mentions how it kicks up another level when someone like LeBron comes to town. Then, she zeroes in on Knicks fans, calling them crazy in the best way and saying she loves people who are genuinely passionate about basketball. You can hear in her voice that she means it. This is stuff she clearly thinks about when she's playing. Reggie Miller chimes in with his own MSG memories, and it turns into a storytelling masterclass. He talks about that long walk up the tunnel on an 8% incline, how it forces you to lock in mentally before you even see the court. He remembers when they had the zoo in the back, and you'd smell the animals on the way up, all these little details that only players really know. And of course, he mentions seeing that certain celebrity in the front row in the orange hat, Spike Lee, and how that always cranked up his buttons. Melo piggybacks on that, saying walking up that ramp, even if you're not ready, you're gonna be by the time you hit the floor. He calls the Garden what it is, theater, the stage where stars prove if they're really built for the biggest lights. They slide seamlessly into talk about LeBron's insane record at MSG. 34 games, dominant wins, numbers that don't even feel real when you see them on the graphic. The message is clear. The Garden exposes you if you're not that guy or that woman, and immortalizes you if you are. Then, they bring in a bit of MJ's philosophy, that mindset of keep the crowd quiet when you're on the road. The host turns to Caitlin and asks if she's ever walked into a big game literally thinking about silencing the building. She gives a smart, honest answer. She points out that, to be fair, a lot of arenas she walks into right now are actually cheering for her team. That's what happens when you're Caitlin Clark. Your fan base travels. But she also gives love to places like New York and San Francisco, shouting out Liberty fans in the Valkyries crowd. She says those are the kinds of road environments where you absolutely want to punch first, get off to a hot start, and force the other coach to call the first time out. That's something she and her teams talk about constantly. It's a glimpse into how she approaches big moments, not just survive them, but take control early.
She agrees with the idea that if you're a star, these are the games you show up for. MSG on a Sunday night, big-time opponents, national TV, those are the nights that feel just a little bit different. And again, she doesn't sound overwhelmed by that. She sounds energized by it. Later, they shift from the arena to the individual and ask her a question she clearly loves. Which NBA player does she watch most closely to steal things for her own game? Without missing a beat, she goes straight to Luka Doncic. She raves about him, but not in a fanboy way. She's talking like a fellow point guard who studies tape. She says Luka is amazing because he's not just a scorer, he's an absurd passer too. She points out that he's not the fastest or the most athletic, but he gets defenders moving on his terms. He manipulates angles, uses his body, and constantly takes the space they give him. She explains how he's great at keeping defenders behind him or pinned to his side, forcing them into bad positions where he dictates everything. Then she turns the lens on herself. She admits that her natural instinct is often to run away from the defense, to avoid contact rather than absorbing it and using it. She says that's an area where she knows she can improve, and that watching Luka has helped her see how to do that. That level of vulnerability, combined with how specific she is exactly what makes her analysis stand out. She isn't just praising someone, she's breaking down how their strengths expose her own tendencies and where she wants to grow. She mentions Luka's typical stat lines, like a 30-point triple-double, and says she makes it look easy while making sure everyone knows it absolutely is not that easy. The panel is nodding because they know every word is true. Then the table turns the question around. After seeing Caitlin play, is there an NBA comparison that makes sense for her? Reggie offers one that might surprise some people: Peyton Pritchard. He talks about Pritchard's handle, his willingness to take and make big shots when the clock is running down, and his lack of fear in big moments. He connects that to Caitlin, not afraid of the stage, not scared of the shot, wired like a future champion. Carmelo, however, goes right back to Luka. He says Caitlin nailed it herself.
He talks about the way she plays in the open court, how she sees the floor, how she can pull up from half court and force defenses to guard her 30 feet from the basket. He mentions that she has that same ability to keep defenders in jail out of the pick and roll and then read the game from there. He straight up tells her she has it, that same mix of vision, unpredictability, and range. They ask Caitlin how she sees her game evolving heading into year 3 as a pro, and again, she offers a thoughtful answer. She says she was just watching old Iowa clips and could see how much her body has changed already. She talks about how much stronger she's had to become because the WNBA is a far more physical league. She's honest about the frustration of only appearing in 13 games last season and says more than anything, she's just itching to get back out there and feel like herself again. She brings up USA basketball and says she's excited for that too. There's this sense that she's balancing being grateful for where she is with being hungry for what's next. NBC then uses the moment to plug what's coming: Women's National Basketball Association games on NBC and Peacock starting in May. The voiceover mentions the brightest stars in the game, and specifically name-drops Caitlin Clark going toe-to-toe with the league's best. You can tell exactly how they're planning to market this. She's the bridge bringing a whole new audience from college and NBA fandom over to the WNBA broadcasts. A perfect example of that bridge is what happened with the Indiana Fever's social media when they clipped a specific moment from that NBC show. Reggie Miller and Cheryl Miller on set, the conversation is flowing, Indiana basketball is the theme, and Reggie just casually drops one of the realest lines you'll hear from a Hall of Famer. "There's a new shooter from Indiana. I'm the third best shooter in the state now. It goes Caitlin, Hyreese, then myself." That's Reggie Miller saying that, the same Reggie who put 2,563s through the net in the NBA, the Pacers icon whose name might as well be stitched into the Garden's history, a Hall of Famer known for some of the coldest road performances in playoff history, especially in that exact building they're sitting in. And he's saying, with a grin, that in Indiana today, he's third behind Caitlin Clark and Hyreese Halliburton. In most places, that line would feel forced, or like he's just being nice. In Indiana, it feels accurate. Caitlin is bombing from the logo as a rookie, immediately forcing WNBA defenses to completely redraw their scouting reports. She's selling out Fever games, breaking TV ratings, changing how young players think about range. Hyreese is orchestrating the Pacers with that 20-10 swagger, splashing threes at nearly 40% and smiling his way through it all. Reggie sees that, and instead of clinging to his throne, he tips his crown to them. The best part? Caitlin is sitting there right as he says it. You can see her start out a bit reserved because, let's be honest, sitting between Reggie and Cheryl Miller on national TV is enough to give anyone butterflies. But the way they include her is so natural. Cheryl's laughing, Reggie's joking, and they're all talking hoops like 3 generations of one basketball family. There's no sense of prove you belong here. It's more, we know why you're here. That moment, more than almost anything else that night, tells you where basketball is headed. Indiana, a state that prides itself on its hoops culture, is watching its legends actively embrace its present and future. Reggie isn't threatened by Caitlin and Hyreese. He's proud. Cheryl isn't side-eyeing Caitlin's popularity, she's lifting her up. That's how you build something that lasts longer than any single era or star. Caitlin Clark's debut on NBC's Basketball Night in America wasn't just about one game or one show or one set of highlights. It was about seeing a WNBA star step into an NBA media space that has historically been pretty closed off and look completely at home. It was about seeing her compete with Jamal Crawford, talk MSG with Melo and Reggie, dissect Luka with detail most analysts never reach, and get publicly stamped by a Hall of Famer as one of Indiana's best pure shooters ever. If you're a WNBA fan, this is exactly the kind of crossover exposure the league is needed. If you're an NBA fan who maybe didn't watch much women's basketball before, this is one more reason to start. And if you're from Indiana, you're watching your basketball identity evolve in real time. From Reggie's era to Hyreese's, from Cheryl's greatness to Caitlin's rise, all under one spotlight. The next chapter of that story is coming fast, with WNBA games rolling onto NBC and Peacock, and the Fever looking to build on their momentum. And if what we just saw at the Garden is any sign, Caitlin Clark isn't just ready for it, she's built for it.